Yesterday, a mother and her boyfriend were arrested after remains of a child were found. 35-year-old Gloria Williams has been charged with injury to a child by omission, and 31-year-old Brian Coulter has now been charged with murder. Williams' family says they haven't spoken with her in months. It's a story you'll see only on 2.
How did we get to this? How could you not reach out and just be like, y'all, I've lost control. It's not in a good space. Mm-hmm. And we would have taken all of the kids.
The children had been living with their brother's skeletal remains for nearly a year. We have team coverage for you tonight. Rochelle Turner has more on the investigation.
But we begin now with Taisha Walker with the story you'll see only on 2. Taisha, what else did the family have to say to you?
Lauren, the family says Williams basically was estranged, that they would hear from her on and off. Her number was always different, as well as her address. In fact, they said they didn't even know that the family was staying at this apartment complex because the last time they met them over the summer, it was just the boyfriend who came outside of the apartment complex, a 15-minute drive away.
Today, we're diving into a harrowing story that raises questions about parental responsibility and child safety. The idea that a parent could abandon their children is a terrifying thought, and this case takes that to a whole new level. We're talking about a mother who not only left her kids to fend for themselves, but also left her own son's remains in the same house. The sheer neglect and disregard for human life is staggering, and it's essential that we examine the circumstances surrounding this incident. We need to understand what led to this tragedy and how it could have been prevented. It's crucial that we acknowledge the severity of this situation and the long-term effects it can have on the children involved. Being abandoned by a parent can lead to emotional trauma, anxiety, and depression, and it's our responsibility to ensure that these kids receive the support they need to recover. In the following sections, we'll delve deeper into the details of this case and explore the implications it has for our society as a whole. This story is a sobering reminder of the importance of accountability and responsibility. It's a reminder that we need to do more to support vulnerable families and children, and it's a call to action for all of us to be more vigilant and proactive in our communities. Gloria Williams was sentenced to 50 years in prison as part of a plea deal. Williams' boyfriend, Brian Coulter, was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for killing Williams' 8-year-old son, Kendrick Lee.
You were on scene shortly after investigators arrived, so you could understand why they are still haunted.
Eric, I spoke with the lead investigator of this case, and he told me this is the worst case he's seen in 20 years that he's worked with the sheriff's office. Now, I remember just seeing a bunch of people gathered behind that crime scene that night. Now, we knew children were involved, but none of us could have ever imagined the neglect and the torture that these boys had to live through. 3 boys found abandoned, afraid, hungry, and injured from beatings, living with their 8-year-old brother's skeletal remains in a bedroom.
And I'm going on law enforcement 10 years now, and I think it's probably the worst scene that I've ever seen.
The little boy's corpse rotting away for an entire year before officers made the discovery on October 24th.
Being a father myself, it's very difficult that kids can be treated like this.
It was a very distinct smell. There was no furniture, there was no lights, there was no electricity. There were roaches everywhere. These children had no beds to sleep on. You know, they barely had something to cover up with.
The brothers told investigators Kendrick Lee was beaten to death by their mother, Gloria Williams' boyfriend, Brian Coulter. In court, we learned one of the brothers was inside the room while Coulter allegedly beat Kendrick Lee, kicking and punching him repeatedly.
It was disturbing, you know, the position that the child was last in and how long the child had been there.
The boys told investigators their mother moved out with her boyfriend, leaving them to fend for themselves. Investigators say Williams and Coulter were living in a separate apartment 25 minutes away. They'd go back every few weeks to drop off some food, but the boys told investigators that during those trips, Coulter would come and beat them, then leave.
I wish I would have maybe push myself a little bit more.
Neighbors I spoke to back in October told me the big brother would leave the apartment occasionally to ask them for food, but he wouldn't say much. Neighbors say they didn't know they were also feeding 2 other boys trapped inside the apartment.
They saw what happened to their brother, and they knew that if they went outside, something bad was going to happen to them.
Investigators say when the boys saw officers, they were relieved, but visibly scared.
They still had that fear in their eyes because they didn't know what was coming next.
Deputy Craig, who interviewed them, tells me the boys hugged him. Help had finally come.
It's heart-wrenching, and just you hug them back. You have a job to do. You don't want to let them go.
Williams and Coulter were arrested outside of a library 2 days after the boys were found. ABC 13 getting surveillance of the 2 inside, where sources tell us they were looking up news articles of themselves. Coulter has been charged with capital murder. Williams is charged with tampering with evidence and injury to a child. Investigators want to know how the alleged abuse went unnoticed for so long. Deputy Craig blames COVID-19 because students were virtual.
Because nobody was looking for it. Nobody was looking for that child that had a bruise on him the next day at school, the kid that had a busted lip.
Alief ISD told us the district filed truancy papers against the mother after the children stopped going to school. They even visited the home in September of 2020, but got no answer and never followed up.
How easy is it to, oh, my kid's going to be homeschooled? And that's where it stays because you just don't have the manpower to follow up on everything.
The Texas Department of Family and Protective Services says the family was in the state system for years. Reports of abuse date back to 2015. CPS tells me the brothers are together now in foster care, where they have access to therapy and counseling. A jury has indicted both Williams and Coulter. Now the case goes to trial, and these investigators wait.
Justice for the children, for Kendrick.
At the end of the day, we all just want justice.
Mother accused of abandoning her sons. Investigators say Gloria Williams failed to protect her boys and get them help despite her boyfriend allegedly beating one of them to death and continuing to abuse the others.
Tonight, she is apologizing. Grace White sat down with Williams at the Harris County Jail and joins us live with what she had to say. Grace?
Gloria Williams told me tonight she is sorry. There are no cameras allowed here inside the Harris County Jail, so we spoke separated by glass during visitation.
They are words from a 35-year-old mother charged with injury to a child by omission and tampering with evidence, a corpse. From inside the Harris County Jail, KHOU 11 News asked her what happened. Williams told us, "I'm sorry, I didn't do it." Her boyfriend, 32-year-old Brian Coulter, is charged with murder for the death of Williams' 8-year-old son, Kendrick Lee. The boy's remains were found inside the family's West Harris County apartment with his 3 other brothers, all abandoned. We asked Williams if she knew Lee was dead. She told us no. But according to court documents, investigators say the mom altered, destroyed, and concealed her son's body to get rid of evidence. When we asked Williams why she left the kids alone, she told us, "I checked on them every 2 weeks." But when we questioned her further, she didn't want to elaborate or provide any more answers.
I saw it on the news, but, I didn't think anything of it.
Melody Robinson is one of the paternal grandmothers. She says Williams has a total of 6 kids, ranging in age from 7 to 17. She has custody of one of them, a 13-year-old girl, who she first brought into her home at just 2 weeks old.
Mom was very unstable. She was sleeping on the floor at her grandmother's house with the babies. And so I just asked her to give her to me.
Robinson says she had no idea Kendrick was dead and the children were abandoned. She tells KHOU 11 she saw Williams in November. That's when another one of the children, a 17-year-old girl, wanted to come live with her because of Williams' boyfriend's behavior.
And she just got tired of, seeing him try to abuse her siblings. And when she stepped in to try to protect them, Mom put her out.
Investigators say this mom and boyfriend were actually arrested outside a public library where they were looking up news articles about this case. Meantime, a candlelight vigil is planned for that little 8-year-old boy this weekend. Lynn and Mia.
Such an agonizing and awful case, and one we will continue to follow.
All right, Grace, thank you for the update.
A man charged with murdering his girlfriend's 8-year-old son and then leaving the boy's body in an apartment with his 3 siblings.
Fox 26's Jonathan Mejia has spent the day in the courtroom. He's joining us live from downtown. Jonathan.
Yeah, that's right. Brian Coulter's trial began this week. Now, he was hearing from witnesses that took the stand today. We heard from the children's adoptive mother, the 2 surviving children's adoptive mother, and she tried to plead a case on why the children shouldn't testify today, although the judge allowed them to testify, although they were able to do so through a monitor screen because the judge said they would be intimidated if they had to sit and take the stand in front of Coulter. And the details from the 10-year-old that spoke, very, very chilling details. He mentioned how he lived in a room. He was able to identify that room, and he stated that he couldn't leave that room unless Coulter, which they identify him as Blue, allowed them to. He said that Blue, Coulter, would bring them food to that room, and he would only let them leave to use the bathroom. Now, on that day where his older brother, Kendrick, was allegedly beaten to death by Coulter, he says the reason why Coulter beat his brother was because he was being selfish. So when the state asked him, what did he mean by that? He said that his brother, Kendrick, had drinking all the water in that room, and that led Coulter to beat him significantly to his death, allegedly. Now, the 10-year-old boy, he was able to identify and realize what had happened. He saw that Coulter had put a blanket over his brother's body. He said that he recognized a lot of maggots and moths around his brother, and he took a peek through that blanket, and that's when he said his brother was no longer alive. He saw his brother in bones. Now, again, the judge did tell us and advised us not to name these children because they are minor, so we're only identify them by the age, and the 12-year-old was also taking the stand, but we had to come out here and report, so we missed that, what he was saying on the stand. But again, just very chilling details about what happened that day and the ongoing abuse. Now, we know that Coulter throughout the day today, we just saw the back of him. You know, we saw he had longer hair than what his mugshot had a couple years ago. He seemed to put on a little bit more weight, but we're expecting to hear from the mother. Her name is Gloria Williams, as she is expected to be in court tomorrow as her trial begins. Count on Fox to keep you updated both on air and online at fox26houston.com. For now, I'm live in downtown. Jonathan Mejia, Fox 26 News.
Developing this afternoon, a judge hands down a 50-year prison sentence to Houston mother Gloria Williams today. She was accused of letting her son's body decompose for a year after her boyfriend fatally beat the child. Our Stephen Goen is at the Harris County Courthouse with the details. Stephen, what was it like in court today?
Well, Marcelino, there was some emotion in that courtroom when the sentencing was read aloud. One of Williams' family members actually just ran out of the room. This moment, we know, more than 4 years in the making. The sentencing came after a punishment hearing today where the defense called multiple people to the stand, including Williams' cousin and her aunt. Just last month, Williams pleaded guilty to 2 counts of injuring a child connected to her son Kendrick Lee's death. The 8-year-old boy's skeletal remains were found in an apartment in 2021 after one of his brothers called police. Authorities later discovered that Williams had abandoned Kendrick's 3 brothers in that apartment with the 8-year-old's decomposing body. Today, prosecutors said they were satisfied and glad Williams' young sons did not have to testify.
We are grateful that the judge gave us a fair hearing, that she listened to all of the evidence, evaluated it in a fair manner, and I think justice was served. We always did this because of the kids. I'm speaking for those who couldn't speak out during this process, and I think that we did a fair job of that.
Now, Williams' partner, Brian Coulter, was previously sentenced in April to life without parole for Kendrick Lee's murder. Williams will now face her punishment for the role she played in this. We know that she will have to serve more than 20 years before she is eligible for parole. As for the children she abandoned, today prosecutors said they were being taken care of, but they would not give us any specifics as to protect the children's privacy.
If you found this story disturbing, make sure to check out our other videos and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.